Next is an accredited speaker, currently the only one from District 12. He's a qualified speaker and founder of Standing Ovations Advanced Toastmasters Club. Edwin Ettinghausen is an ultra marathon runner known around the country for his jester attire. He recently completed his 204th 100-mile, 30-hour race in Connecticut. He will talk about his book writing experience and the books that impacted him this year, namely Man's Search for Meaning, The Hero Code, and What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. Ever onward and upward, please welcome Edwin Ettinghausen.
Thank you so much, Roz, fellow Toastmasters. Do you remember that song on Sesame Street sung by Oscar? I would sing it myself, but I'm afraid we would lose our whole audience. So you know the title of the song, I Love Trash? Well, take that song and put in place of trash, books. I love books. My love for books actually began when I was a child in foster care. I was raised by a very strict woman, single mother, foster mother, and she didn't have much of an education. She had dropped out of school after the 8th grade, but she was a very self-educated woman in that she had done a lot of reading, and she instilled in me a love of reading. Now, part of it was, I don't know if it started out to be a love of reading. It was really almost a hatred of reading, because my punishment when I would get in trouble, and well, sorry to say, or hate to say, I got in trouble a lot as a kid. I'd be sent to my room, no TV, no radio, no cell phones at the time, no social media of any kind, no computers, but I had access to books. So it started out as sort of like punishment, became something that I fell in love with. I have a lot of books. I wish I could say to you, I have read every single one of those books, but the reality is probably 99% of those books I've read the first page, maybe the first chapter, but only about 1% of the books I have actually gotten all the way through to the end. But I found there's an interesting way to get through a book. I actually am part of 3 different, we'll call them book clubs. I'll explain each of them. One is a group that I started. It's a mastermind group that we meet every morning. And part of what we do in our program is we listen to an audiobook for 10 minutes. We started this April of last year after the pandemic. It kind of motivated me to get this started for my own benefit, because I was really struggling last year. And I thought maybe if I could start a mastermind group that could help others, would help me as well. And it actually really did. It got me into a really good morning routine. But we have actually, since April of last year, we've completed 8 different books just from 10 minutes a day, Monday through Friday, listening to an audiobook. The 3 books that Roz mentioned to you, we read or listened to in our session. One of them is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. I'd heard about this book over the years. Actually, I'd purchased the book years ago, and as my typical habit was, I'd gotten through a few pages, and then, like a shiny object and a dog distracted by a squirrel, I'd get on to buy another book and read a little bit of that, and then buy another book. So we actually did get all the way through this book in our audio. It's amazing the message that's within this book of Viktor Frankl's challenge of being a psychologist in Austria. And this was just at the time the Nazis were just starting to become more powerful. He actually had a visa that was issued to him that he could come to the United States, but it was only for him and his wife, and he didn't want to leave his family behind, so he stayed in Austria. As a Jew, eventually he was rounded up and sent to Auschwitz, as was his mother and father, his pregnant wife, his sister. And he talks about the experience that he went through in Auschwitz and how he, as a psychologist, psychiatrist actually, he was looking at the experiences people had and what it was that kept people alive. For him, it was the image of his wife, knowing that someday he would see his wife and his newborn child. Didn't know even if it was a boy or girl. And he saw that people who didn't have that to keep them going, those are the ones who gave up on life. Sadly, he eventually, well, the good thing is he eventually was rescued. Sadly, his parents perished, his pregnant wife perished, and he was the only survivor of his family. But he came out with an attitude that is amazing. And this is a whole concept that I would never even know about the mindset, if it wasn't for reading the book that Viktor Frankl wrote. Now, a part of the interesting thing about this book is that he actually had the manuscript for a book that he had sewn into his jacket liner and was trying to save that and lost it because they took all of their clothing and he had to start all over writing a new book. That was Viktor Frankl. That's just one of the book experiences that I had with my group. Other books that we've read, the What to Say When You Talk to Yourself, which is really an amazing book by Dr. Shad Helmstetter. It talks about how when we talk to ourselves, we program our mind. And he gives a series of steps that we can all take to reprogram the way we think, the way we talk to ourselves. And by starting new synapsal pathways in the way that we talk with positive phraseology, we actually can reset our mind, reframe our whole mindset. And by doing that, we can prune away the old negative way of talking that many of us have. We put down ourselves in a way that if someone else did that to us, we would certainly not want to be in their company. They would no longer be a friend of ours. But yet we many times will talk to ourselves in that way. That's the book, What We Say When We Talk to Ourselves. There's a book that we're going to start with another group that I'm a part of. It's actually a book club, and we meet every Thursday night from 6 to 7 p.m. We've gone through 3 books. We're at the very tail end of our 4th book, which is Atomic Habits. And the next book we will start reading, which I have read, is The Hero Code. Luckily for me, The Hero Code I picked up. I've been doing a lot of flying, going to races, and I picked it up and read it on a flight. It's amazing how much time you have on a plane if you're flying from coast to coast, and you can actually get through a whole book during one flight. I've done that. Another book that I have not yet read, but I know the author. The author, you may not know the name. The name is Adam Skolnick. And this is a book that talks about how you can overcome difficulties with the way you program your mind. It's a book about this ultra marathoner who ran 101 miles when he weighed 260 pounds. You might be thinking, now, wait a minute, Ed, Melissa just told us about that book, and the author is David Goggins. Well, David Goggins is credited as the author, but he had a ghostwriter, Adam Skolnick. I remember, yes, Adam Skolnick. And if you look at the jacket of the book, you will see that. So the reality is, you don't have to even write your own book. You can have a ghostwriter that will work with you. And that book, when David and Adam tried to shop it around, they couldn't find a publisher. They were rejected. So they self-published it. Now, you might hear of self-published books and think, well, can't really sell that many, right? I mean, they're self-published. Do you know how many books Can't Hurt Me David has sold? Over 3 million. And the book came out in 2018. Now, I've been blessed to have ran with David Goggins. In fact, one of the races he's famous for is called Badwater. It's 135 miles through Death Valley. David has attempted the race 4 times, completed it 3 times. The last 2 times I was there in the race with him and got to know him a little bit. In 2 weeks from tonight, actually, I will be running that race for the 10th consecutive time. And at that race, I will break the world record for most 100-mile races ever ran by a human being. And that will be my 208th 100-mile race. So I have, I think, some material that can be put into a book. Another friend of mine who was ran Badwater 10 times, you might know him, Constantine. He wrote a book called Ultra Marathon Man. You might be thinking, wait a minute, Ed, I know about that book. That's a really famous book. That also has sold millions. I don't think the guy's name is Constantine. No, it's actually Dean Karnazes. He doesn't have his name Dean on his passport or his driver's license. That's the name he's chosen as his pen name. So you can even have a pen name if you want. And then there's another group that I'm a member of, and that's a writing group. We meet every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. and we write. We get together on Zoom and we have time committed to writing. I am now writing my book. I've learned that there's 3 important things you need to do for writing a book. Make a commitment, obviously, and find something that a subject matter that you enjoy. That could be a hobby, a profession, could even be about yourself. Number 2 is you need to have a date of when you want that book to be published. And then number 3, you need to commit time, whether it's with my book club that I'm a member of, the writing club, once a week, or even on a daily basis. I've committed 15 minutes a day to my writing. So those are some challenges that I put out to you. And maybe you also can be an author of 1 million or more books like Dean Karnazes' Ultra Marathon Man, or David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me. Whether you sell 3 books or 3 million books, the important thing I believe is we all have a story within us and we can share it with others. But please put the time and effort into your book to where it's not like Oscar says, I love trash. We don't need any trashy books out there. There's plenty of those. Put some quality effort into it. And maybe you will have someone singing about your book saying, I love books. And I love the book written by that person right there. Back to you, Roz.
Thank you, Ed. Okay, it's traditional in the club he started. Standing ovation. This is what I'm accustomed to after speakers. Thank you, Ed.